I'm going to show you how to perfectly calibrate the Legion Go 2's HDR screen. Now, many of you will be unfortunately calibrating this wrong, but it's not your fault, it's Windows' fault. So let's kind of talk about that, and I'll show you exactly step by step how to make sure that this is going to be the best experience you can possibly get on your Legion Go 2. And spoiler, it's incredible when it's fully calibrated. So effectively, Windows treats built-in displays differently than an external one. So the Windows brightness slider is not actually just a brightness slider control for HDR. It's actually a dynamic range and paper white control. So just for example, if we set the brightness to 100% and then calibrate it, like most of you have probably done, this actually results in completely blown out and crushed highlights and reduces the peak brightness in HDR, essentially giving no headroom for HDR to actually work and pop up to that 1100 nits brightness. So what we need to do is actually set the brightness much lower for calibration to calibrate that HDR for the 1100 nits peak brightness that this screen is capable of. And then what this does by lowering that brightness is it sets the paper white level much, much lower, allowing then for HDR to peak up to that peak 1100 nit brightness and really make HDR absolutely mind-blowing. Now I need to do a big shout out to Leeson865 over on Reddit for completely in-depth analyzing this and explaining what is going on here. I came to the same conclusions myself, but honestly, I couldn't tell you why. Whereas Leeson here actually managed to inform me exactly what was happening and why this was happening. So if you want to learn more about Paperwhite and this weird Windows slider and what's going on there, check out the link in the description to Leeson's post over on Reddit. Now, before I show you the step-by-step guide, here's a word from our sponsor, UGreen. UGreen have released a new range of MagFlow products utilized with the new Apple phones and the new Google Pixel 10 Pro. Just by chance, I just so happened to upgrade to the new Google Pixel 10 Pro, and I can confirm this works absolutely perfectly. The MagFlow 2-in-1 magnetic wireless charger is great for my desk setup. I've actually been using this for a little while now, and it charges at the full 25 watts, and it's MagSafe compatible, and I'm using a mouse case which has MagSafe on it, and it still charges at that 25 watts. And the same goes with their new magnetic wireless power bank, which is 10,000 milliamp hour, and it's still QI2 certified at 25 watts, MagSafe compatible. These products are absolutely amazing, and there's so much more. And it's really funny because I've been using UGreen products for absolutely years now, just by personal choice. So when they wanted to sponsor the channel, we were all for it. Go check out the UGreen products in the link in the description. Okay, let's crack on with it. I'm gonna now show you the step-by-step guide, everything you need to do to calibrate it correctly. So the first thing we need to do is go to the AMD Adrenalin software app. This is kind of redundant because of what we'll do in a second, but I'll still show you just so you can check to make sure this is off. So you're gonna go up to settings, you're going to go to display, and then you're going to scroll down, and where it says very bright just here, you want to make sure that is completely on 0. I would also turn the OLED power optimization on 0 as well. Now what we want to do is go over to Windows setting, we want to go to system and then display, and then you will see this just here. So where it says brightness, click the little drop down menu and turn off change brightness automatically when lighting changes. And equally, just here where it says change brightness based on content, just go ahead and change that to off. Now, once you've turned off change brightness based on content there, if we go back to the AMD app, it actually removes very bright because the system has now just told it, no, don't mess with it at all. So that first step was kind of redundant, but just make sure that it was off anyway, just to be safe. So now we can close out of AMD's software and we're back into this display area. But before we continue, we need to lower that brightness setting, and there is a specific setting we need to set it to based on the panel. So I'm going to open up the side menu here and go to our brightness slider and drop that all the way down to 43. Now it will look very dim. I'm also screen recording just in case it doesn't capture very well on the camera, so I can put it on for you. But 43, don't worry, you're not having to game at 43 forever. This is purely for the calibration only. And then after we've calibrated, you can put it to any brightness setting you want, and that HDR will follow it with that slider, right? So now we've set to 43, we can back out. Now what you want to do is go to HDR just here and open up the HDR menu. And then you will find somewhere on here, HDR display calibration. Now this will bring you to the Microsoft Store for the Windows HDR calibration app. Obviously I've already done all this, so I've already got it, but you will have to install it. It is free. And then you're going to open up the HDR calibration app, which will bring you here. Now, what we're going to do is basically follow these images. So we're going to get started. And because this is OLED, we're going to drop all the way to 0 on the minimum luminance just here. Now when we go to next, we essentially need to make this completely white. Editing Andy here. Yes, phone video, sorry. I forgot I'm not filming in HDR and nor is the capture in HDR. So what you're going to see in my video will not reflect what you'll be seeing on your Legion Go 2 as you're calibrating HDR. Everything I'm saying is correct. It's just what you're seeing on YouTube won't necessarily reflect it. So keep following the guide and you'll see as you're doing it that you're doing it correctly. Anyway, back to it. Now, if we had the brightness slider to 100, it will not be correct. At 43%, we can now bring this up to the true 1100 just here. So I'm going to just choose 1100, and that there is the absolute peak brightness of this screen in HDR, right? So that is where we need to set it to 1100 nits. Let's just pull it back just a bit so you can still see that image. Hopefully you still can. Let's make it quite drastic there. If I bring up the actual main brightness, do you see now? At 100% brightness, we're not getting the thing removed actually at all, right? So it's just completely messed with this image. So most people would be like, oh yeah, now let's set it to 1100 because that's the peak. But you're actually completely screwing the display up by doing this. You need to drop this down to that 43, right? And then we can go and find 1100 just here. So I'm going to get exactly 1100 because that's the peak brightness. There we go. So I'm going to choose 1100 just there and go next. And the same with this image just here. I'm going to just select the little slider and let's just drag it up a bit first. So let's see if I can hit it with my finger. There we go, 1100. And then we're going to hit next. Now you can see with this image, it might be blown out on the camera, but hopefully the screen record works. Then you can see the before and after with the HDR content, right? And it's peaking up to 1100. What we're on now, color saturation screen, this is purely to taste. So it's up to you. Less, which is default, is actually like a more natural, true representation of what artists and whatever content you'll be viewing are trying to represent. However, if you like the oversaturated look, then you can whack it right up. I personally don't. The easiest way to see this is to go 100% and then drop it down to 0 and go, if you look at like the green under or around that plane and really look at it, you will see it. It is subtle. I personally like putting it at 30. Just for a little bit of a boosted saturation there because we're playing games and games look nice and saturated. I like putting it to 30. It's up to you. This is a personal taste thing. I'm going to hit next. So now we can see before and after calibration that the left side is completely blown out. The right side is completely fine. So I'm actually going to cancel this out if I can because I've already done this. So I'm just going to go close window, close, and then go back to the HDR window. I'm going to go to display, right? And then you can see here, I've actually saved it as 43% brightness, correct, HDR calibrated. I did this back at the 17th of last month, as you can see here, right? But once you hit complete on that HDR thing, you can then save it and it will show here in color profile under display just there. Now, we're not done yet though. We need to go back into the HDR menu just here and then scroll down, and where it says HDR content brightness, move that completely to 0. So moving that up just destroys the contrast in HDR. It's a bit of a weird Windows thing. Just turn it off entirely. And I would also recommend removing auto HDR and just enabling or disabling HDR when you know there's going to be a game that uses HDR. Forcing HDR on over SDR content just doesn't always work very well. It's up to you. You can try it out. You know, it's a simple toggle here in system, right? But I personally just turn that off and I leave HDR on. And if a game has HDR, then the game will pick it up and enable it, or you can enable it in the settings. And if it's an SDR game, well, then I've got HDR off for the auto HDR, because I don't want Windows forcing HDR into a game that doesn't have HDR, because it just messes up everything. And the good thing is, because we saved that profile, you can always ensure that if you've had an update through Windows or anything, and you're a bit like, oh, has it messed up my screen? Well, then you can go to Display, Color Profile, and you click on it and go, yep, there we go, color profile there. And I've obviously listed mine as that's the correct one, so remember that. Now, the good thing is, now we've calibrated the screen, we don't have to live at that 43% brightness anymore. Like I said earlier, we can go ahead and let's go back to the desktop view, right? We can go ahead and bring this up to whatever brightness you want. I usually game at 70. 70 is like kind of where I like it. I'm often in a dark studio and stuff. 70% is great, but effectively now what you can do is lower it anywhere you want. So you can go all the way down or all the way up on that brightness slider there, and the HDR will be correctly assigned to that slider. So you don't need to worry about that. Just play at the brightness that you want to play at, and HDR will be correct because we calibrated it at 43% for that 1100 nits peak brightness. And there we go. Now you can game on any game you want with HDR and have the true potential with no clipping or no issues. Just there is absolutely mind-blowing when you get to calibrate the screen correctly and then go and play an HDR game. The colors pop, it can peak up to that 1100 nit brightness, and it really just makes you feel so zoomed into this screen. We've actually got 2 other videos on the channel about the screen itself and just like us gushing over how good it is, and also comparing it against the Xbox Ally X as well. It's quite surprising, that one, so I recommend you go and check out those videos somewhere on the screen right now. And again, big shout out to Leeson as well on Reddit. Their post will be down in the link in the description. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video and happy gaming. Let me know if you figured this out by yourself or if you followed this guide and now you're getting the true HDR experience. Would love to know. Don't forget, we've got tips and tricks videos on the channel as well, and plenty more Legion Go 2 videos coming up as well. So yeah, go down there, like this video, subscribe, leave a comment, and become a member if you want to chat to us over on our private Discord as well. And I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.